The mailman doesn't deliver on a Sunday.
If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Anthony for three. Bang! J.R. Smith! We just saw men fly. LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Cleveland! This is for you!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I am Ronan Gaine. Joining me as always, Chris Nambu. Thank you so much for making this podcast your first listen for NBA coverage. Remember, you're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys are thinking. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave that 5-star review. You do that and we'll keep producing that content. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a little look at some players that are underperforming so far this year and not doing what we expected heading into this season. We'll open up with a few quick fire points, talk about the in-season tournament semifinals, some fast break points about what's gone on over the past few days. Before we do that, Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm pretty good, man. Like we talked about last time, we're in the midst of the in-season tournament. It's been a fun time, but we're getting in the Christmas spirit. Got the tree up, everything's looking good. And excited to get going here. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the biggest news is. I guess it's the in-season tournament. One really good semifinal in the East, which saw the Pacers take down the Bucks, and then one really disappointing semifinal where the Lakers blew out the Pelicans. But just to start on that quickly, again, the in-season tournament is Tyrese Halliburton's playground. 28 assists and 0 turnovers across the quarterfinal and semifinal for him. Came up super clutch again in the semifinal. Like this in-season tournament has just worked as a platform for him to really showcase his stardom, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, in the spirit of the fast break, we'll make it quick. And I will go right up for a layup and say that I did not project the Bucks to play poorly against the Pacers. I didn't call that. I thought the Bucks got away from what they did in the first game that made them really good. And I mean, the Pacers are going to answer the call. Tyrese Halliburton's going to answer the call. He's playing well with the light shining brightest. And that's all you could hope from your budding superstar, as we can now dub him at this point. And that's what the in-season tournament's all about, man. It's all about these new guys, these new faces really making a claim in the NBA. And I don't think the Pacers would have the chance to do that without this stage. So just awesome to see that. Bucks are not going to win 2 championships this year. We'll see if they even win 1. But got to see some more consistency from them on a night-to-night basis, especially against a defense like the Pacers. But hey, bravo to Indiana. Can't wait to see what happens tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad I was confident enough to pick them
to
take on the Bucks. And even though I when they got to a stage, I think it was early third quarter, the Bucks went on a run, and I was just thinking, the Pacers aren't hitting their shots. Surely the Bucks, with Giannis dominating as he was and Lillard playing well too, like surely they'll have enough to just close this out. But it just felt like down the stretch, the Pacers just wanted it more. It genuinely felt as simple as that. The Pacers just wanted that W, that little bit more than the Bucks, and ultimately got the win. And then we saw it came out afterwards. Bobby Portis apparently calling out his coach in the locker room. So there's definitely a bit of tension within the Bucks organization at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to see how they move forward from here.
I want to say that. Since we're getting a little stuck in the half court here, not fast break, but I mean we got to talk about it. The Bucks, I feel like, got away, especially from again the pick and roll, got away from getting screen actions for Dame and Giannis that got them so many open looks. And most frustratingly is when they get bogged down and Giannis getting in the middle of the floor on a one-on-one and fading away, and that happened. I feel like way too many times for my liking. They didn't get a lot of good offense there, a lot of one-on-one, Brook Lopez sometimes taking a matchup. When they get into matchup hunting, it doesn't work. And, another shout out, 2 pods in a row now, shout out Aaron Nesmith for what he did on Giannis, just making it a little uncomfortable and forcing him to a fadeaway that, Giannis, it's an open shot, but it's a shot that you want Giannis to take. And it's an interesting thing that I think, some games you see Giannis start to get to that. And as a team, as a defense, you get excited when he does that because you can live with that. You can't live with Giannis getting downhill. You can't live with Dame getting into space. And you can't live with the Bucks, starting to throw the ball around to open shooters. And the Bucks didn't do that consistently. And that's I would, if I'm Bobby Portis, I'm frustrated about that. I'm frustrated about the offensive game plan. But overall, I think the Pacers, force them into that. You play the Pacers, you got to really have the ability to slow the game down. You have the ability to get to your spot, to get into your offense, and not get too excited about playing too fast. Because I don't think there's a lot of teams that can do it as well as the Pacers can.
No, not for sure. Now it's just got to, you look at Nisha and think, okay, so what's he going to do on LeBron James tonight? Definitely a matchup that's going to be interesting to see. Most likely one that we are going to see tonight. Let's make it real quick though on the Lakers side. LeBron just unbelievable, was completely locked in, and the Lakers blitzed the Pelicans. Not really too much to say outside of that.
Yeah, literal snooze fest. Like I said, I got the tree up. It's like 10 o'clock. Those Western Conference games. Like the lights are low. I got the Christmas lights going. I'm on the couch. Like I was out by the second half. I was gonna rewatch it. I wake up to a 30-point lead, and I'm like, do I even? I mean, you just go back and watching some of the possessions there, and I think the one key takeaway that I think you might get into a little bit more here on today's pod is the contrast between Zion and LeBron James and the overall energy that you saw between these two teams. And that's not what you want to see from Zion. And I'll leave it at that. The Lakers, I mean, once they get their defense going and they really start to pressure the perimeter like that, and you have AD hounding the paint, that's a really tough team to beat when their defense is humming like that. And
if they get hot from three, like the Lakers are usually a pretty awful, for the most part, 3-point shooting team. If they get hot from three, they're about as close to unstoppable as it comes. When LeBron's playing like he is, role guys are hitting their threes, and their defense is the way that it is. They're pretty unbeatable. That was an impressive performance, but obviously more so a disappointing outing from Zion and the Pelicans. But like you said, we'll get into Zion a little bit later. One quick thing I got: the Nuggets finally lost at home last night.
Mm-hmm.
The Rockets did a great job of trying to let the Nuggets get back into the game. I think I feel like they didn't have a field goal in the last 8 minutes of the fourth quarter or something like that.
18-0 run they gave up in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, like they went in 25 up. They finished what, it was 6 or 7 they won by in the end. The question is now, how long before the Celtics do it at home? How long can the Celtics keep going? The last undefeated streak in the league is going with the Celtics at home. How long does that last?
Yeah, well, we'll see how long the loss in the in-tournament play kind of fuels them as they go along here. I got a couple fast breaks here, and staying with the Rockets, 3 amazing enough quarters to beat the Nuggets. And yes, you got to clean up the fourth quarter there. You got to keep the defensive pressure. You got to stay aggressive on offense. I think, this happens to teams. You get a comfortable 20-point lead. And if you're playing a bad team, you kind of relax. You start to play a little bit one-on-one, kind of get away from the team concept. On defense, you slip a little bit, you miss a couple of box outs, but you're playing the defending champs, playing the Denver Nuggets. So they have to clean that up. But 3 quarters, this is what you do to me. We're supposed to do fast break, and now you got me talking about the Rockets. If I get to talk about the Rockets here, man, I need a minute, because they're still top 5 in defense. That's how they got such a big lead. I mean, they're struggling offensively, but they are still top 5 in defensive.
This was their first road win of the season. Their first road win of the season came against the team with arguably the best home form in the NBA.
Yeah, and they've beaten the Kings, another high-powered offense, 3 times. We talked about that, and just keeping pace with them. Are we still buying the Rockets, given their defensive consistency as a playoff team now that we're into December?
I mean, they've hit a little low. They've just gone back above 500 with that win last night. I think it's hard to rule them out at this stage, especially with the way some of the other teams are still showing inconsistency. So yeah, they're still in on it at the moment. It's just see where they're at when the likes of the Warriors and the Clippers and the Suns really start to find some consistency.
Yeah, and staying in the West, in the last 11 games, the Clippers are 8-3, and they boast the 5th best net rating. Are you still selling them as a contender?
Yes.
Still selling it. I'm with you, and here's why. 5th, if anyone's talking about the 5th in net rating, how good they've been on defense, they've been 2nd best in the league in defensive rating. over the past 11, 12 games, they've been 17th in offensive rating. And that just can't happen with James Harden. And I will continue to say, like, you still see some good things. You still see the ball movement evolving, but you also still see the your turn, my turn. You still see the lack of shooting at times to maintain the spacing they need for those guys. And I'm holding. I'm not buying. I'm not selling. I'm holding. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but I'll stay home for me.
Okay.
I'll stay home for me, and maybe I'll answer my own question after you go. But I don't know if this is a layup. This is a dunk. This might be a contested fast break here. But in 5 games without Zach LaVine, Kobe White is averaging 25 points, 5.8 assists, 5.5 rebounds. At 23 years old, we got to remember, he's very young. Should the Bulls factor in his growth this season when considering LaVine and the trade market, and ultimately move LaVine to give Kobe more room to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they should move LaVine.
That's a layup for you. That's a layup.
I don't see this Bulls team going anywhere how it's currently made up. I think it'd be more fun for the fans to even if they didn't get much of a return in terms of players for LaVine, just see Kobe White go out there, see the likes of some of their other young guys just go out there and play, and at least they know that they're not in a position where they're trying to win or anything like that. They're just going there and seeing how things play out and moving forward from there.
Yeah, I will. For me, it's not a layup. It's a little contested because it's LaVine's market is questionable right now. I'm not sure where he goes. He's having the worst. It's only 18 games. He's having a bad stretch in this season. I think it's pretty clear that both sides are starting to move on, despite whatever he says business wise. But I like what I see from Kobe. Kobe's really grown as a playmaker. He's played as really good defensively as a pest. He's never gonna be elite there, but the playmaking first, like really setting other guys up, really stretching the floor as a shooter, and being a lot more dynamic off the bounce. Like he seems to have gained a lot more strength over the past year, and is able to get all the way to the rim. And he's really, his career numbers are showing it. I gotta be there with you. I think I agree. I love LaVine. I love what we've seen from him over the past years. I love how dedicated he's been. But I'm still there where I believe that the time has come. My last fast break. The last thing I gotta send to you is something we mentioned before. We got some rumors coming out about how aggressive the Pacers will be in this trade market. And Siakam has been a name that's been coming up. And if you like to play with the trade machine, you'll very quickly realize that is a trade that just cannot happen unless, of course, there's a third team, which is tough, or you ultimately include Buddy Hield. If you are the Pacers, do you trade the guy that Tyrese Halliburton loves most, the second most aggressive three-point shooter on the league's best three-point shooting team, for a guy like Siakam, and why?
I would say yes, because they're more the 3-point shooting can be covered up a bit more than the defensive frailties that they've got now, and I think the swing for bringing in a guy like Siakam, I think he could fit in very well quickly into the way the Pacers are trying to play. He'll provide a bit more on the defensive end. He'll definitely offer them more rebounding, which they desperately need. Yeah, I think the pros for having Siakam outweigh the cons of not having Buddy Hield.
Okay, I disagree. I got to think about this, is how has Siakam looked when Fred VanVleet was at his best? And how has he looked when Scottie has been in his best? We really have seen Siakam's all-NBA form on the offensive end when the ball is in his hand. He's able to take on mismatches. He's able to get to the rim. He's able to have spacing around him and go to work. And I'm not sure that fits in with the Pacers. I'm not sure that fast-paced, high-octane, move the ball around, hit threes, get into spacing really works when you have a guy like Siakam versus a guy like Obi Toppin, who I thought has worked in perfectly. Like, he spaces the floor well. He rolls hard at the rim, and then he relocates to three. He sets screens, relocates, moves the ball around. I'm not sure if Siakam fits there, but defensively, that's where I do kind of wonder, is like, okay, do you need a point of attack defender like Siakam who would be able to take on a Tatum, would be able to take on a Brown, would be able to do okay against Giannis? But I mean, we also just saw them beat both those teams in one game, albeit we have to consider that. So I'm not fully bought in. Of course, you always want to get more talent, but I loved hearing. I got to end here just saying, like, listening to Tyrese Halliburton's interview about Buddy Hield, for example, was really cool. It was cool to see how much those guys have built together, being in Sacramento, coming here, and bringing the Pacers to where they are right now. And you got to consider those things, you know, when you're a star guy, like if that's his boy, if that's his guy, and that is also a key part of your organization, it's easy when us non-NBA regular folk go on to the ESPN trade machine and just like throw guys in like pieces of a puzzle and just expect it to work out. But I think it'll be a little more complicated than that depending on who you're throwing in, and that'll be a tough one.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Especially, it's probably easier to say even just in this moment. Over the last few games, I feel like Hield has really been shooting poorly. He's in a bit of a bad stretch on his 3-point shooting at the moment as well. So maybe it's an easier time for me to say yes on that trade as well.
Yeah, that's fair. So, who are you disappointed in, Ronan? You're the one who wants to talk about the doom and gloom. We'll talk about who we have been disappointed in. It's no longer too early to say. We're now in December. We have plenty of sample size. We've seen enough on the floor. We've seen enough in the stat sheet. And I'll let you go first.
Well, I got to go for the obvious one. The guy who I said had the most to prove coming into this season, Zion Williamson. 22.2 points per game, career low. 5.6 rebounds a game, career low. Career low effective field goal percentage. He's just after playing back-to-back TV games, and all I could see of him was, wow, this guy's just a big lump. That's what I was thinking most of the time when I've seen him when I'm on the floor. I'm not saying it's time to give up on him, but there's still those rumors that he's not willing to buy in terms of his health and his diet and getting in better shape. There's still reasons to see that he's not fully committed to being the best basketball player that he can be. And I think that what we see when you see him on TV, you're just like, this guy is a lump. Like he's not able to get up and down the court. He is not able to be consistently explosive like we see some other guys who are in the best shape that they can be. And that's where I think the rebounding is really hurting him. I think he could definitely be someone who's averaging at least 8 boards a game. And I just don't think he has the hops. I don't think he has the energy, the size that he's currently at, to be able to get in a position to do that. And obviously too early to give up on him. Many have struggled early in their careers and thrive later, like a Shaq or an Embiid. He's still only 23, but so far this season, especially this in-season tournament quarterfinal and semifinal, has really made me look at him and get really disappointed.
Yeah, it's the energy from him you don't love. So I gotta say that I'm also disappointed, and I also gotta bring up one thing we heard on the broadcast. Is this not the most casual take in the NBA that Shaq said that in 2 to 3 years Zion had the potential to be the best player in the NBA? Is that
there? Yeah, somewhere around there.
And I got to comment more on the broadcast that, like, when Charles Barkley, and I'm not going to claim to watch every single game. We just can't. It's impossible. Like, you catch as much as you can. You really try to learn as much as you can about all these teams. But when Charles Barkley and Shaq start talking about some of these teams, they talk about them like this is the first time they've watched them. Like, legitimately, it's like, oh, I've finally seen like this game, and like it's like, it's so funny. It's so funny. These guys have forgotten more about basketball than I could ever learn. I'll say that straight up. But sometimes it's just funny how often these guys are just admitting that they're not watching the games. But I digress. Zion Williamson, I want to see him do more on offense. Just like one thing that I want to see is, if he's not scoring, how can they get him involved as a screener? How can they get him involved as a cutter? Because he's just killing their spacing if he doesn't have the ball in his hands. And I think the best offense we see from him is point Zion. But when the action's kind of fizzled out and he's just standing there with the ball in his hands at the 3-point line with 8 feet of space in front of him, what do? Like, you got to eat up the space. Someone's got to clear out of the paint. There's some things that could be cleaned up there. And I think that also has to do with, figuring out lineups, figuring out how they want to flow into their actions in terms of who's on the floor with Zion. They quickly had to figure that out with Jonas and him on the floor when that matchup kind of got exposed. But energy-wise, yeah, defensively, he's never going to be great on that end. But even just screening, like, just be a better screener. Like, if you're going to have all that weight on you, like, I'm sure you can be a great screener. Like, that's something that should be better, but he just never seems to really get the chip on any guy. but disappointment for sure, especially since he's supposed to be best player in the NBA in 2 to 3 years.
I mean,
Question for you,
he is supposed to be up there right now. Like, he's
Okay.
not even the best player on his team right now. Like, that's something
Fair,
that Charles
yeah.
Barkley said. That's true.
Was there ever a point in time, like remembering back to like Point Zion a couple years ago, was there ever a point in time where you felt like Zion was going to be a top 5 player in the NBA? Not
Yeah, I mean,
pre-draft, not pre-draft.
That
like,
year
5
he
years.
actually played. That year he had he played 61 games, averaged 27 points a game. That year there's definitely the signs there that if he could just become a not terrible defender and continue on this rise in terms of offense, then he could legit be that sort of level player. But then again, at the same time, he hasn't really had that coming of age moment either. That moment where he's really stepped up in a big game to get a big win for his team. And that's something we usually see. I know it's such a minor little thing, but it's something we usually see from the best guys in the first like 2 or 3 years of their career.
That's fair. In year 4, hopefully see more. I don't know. I don't think he's reached that point for me. It's still wanting to see more, and definitely the point of emphasis is the fact that, you know, Brandon Ingram right now is the guy on his team. But we'll see how I think a better marker for him as a player is I want to see how he fits into that pecking order. He fits into that in terms of who do they want to be as a winning team and who does Zion have to be in order for them to achieve that? And is he okay with that? Like, we can't always rely on Point Zion for them to be the best. Can he do other things? Can he be a weak side rim protector? Like, I mean, he's got like such potential. I thought when he was coming to the NBA, that would be a big part of his game defensively that would, you know, allow him to be not too much of a liability there, but hasn't really come to fruition. I'll throw out my first player, Jaren Jackson Jr. And I'll put a caveat to this because the Grizzlies suck. Like, Memphis is bad. They don't have enough players that are healthy to play real NBA basketball. So is it fair? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how you view Jaren Jackson Jr. though, because I think going into the season, I think I had a bit of an expectation, maybe not an expectation, but a hope that Jaren Jackson Jr. had a little bit more in the tank to develop as a player. I thought that, you know, he's already shown the Defensive Player of the Year, averaging 3 blocks a year last year. He's already shown that he can be a really streaky shooter. Maybe he can get more efficient. With more touches, I felt I saw flashes of him being a better post player, being a better playmaker off the bounce. And that if you took away Ja from the equation, you took away Tyus from the equation, you took away Dylan Brooks from the equation, that it would have to come from him, and he would evolve a little bit this season. But he's pretty much been the same guy. His 3-point percentage has gone down with more usage, sunk to a career low, 30% shooting 7% below league average in the paint at 52%. That's a major disappointment for me. You know, and at times this is why there's an asterisk, because like if you're playing another team and it's just Jaren Jackson Jr. and a bunch of G League, like you're gonna load up on him. Like you're not gonna let him score. He's gonna have a tougher time. So maybe this changes, but I don't think he's evolved in the way that I thought he had the opportunity to, being the guy. And disappointment, maybe, depending what your expectation was. For me, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting one. And even like you say, obviously caveat because Grizzlies suck, but Desmond Bane is someone who's pretty. I'd say he's thriving. What he's delivering at the moment, he's still being able to perform as much as the team is struggling, and as much as he's had a few bad nights, he's still in a position where he's able to thrive. The fact that they're a bad team shouldn't change the individual performances of Jaren Jackson Jr. He should be a guy that's still that bright light, even though there is massive struggle, even though the team is dealing with a massive injury list at the moment. So I think it's fair for you to be disappointed in him. I think hearing that, I'm actually surprised. I think I definitely agree, especially like that point about scoring in the paint. Like that's really bad. That's an area that he needs to dominate for the Grizzlies. And you think of them at their best, and you think that that's an area that he would be able to thrive in, especially without feeling the need to not clog up the paint when usually like you have Ja Morant there wanting to get to the rim. Without him there, I think that's an area where he should really be thriving. So that's definitely an area I think that'd be the biggest area where I'd be disappointed in for sure.
Yeah. So that's that for me. I think the disappointment ultimately, when you really boil it down, The point is, I think he is who he is. He's a defensive player of the year potential kind of guy. He's a streaky 3-point shooter. He's a guy that's very versatile offensively, can run pick and pop, can run pick and roll, sometimes post up, but he's never going to be like a 1B type of option guy. And that, this is an evaluation year for the Grizzlies, and you've seen Desmond Bane step to the plate, increase his points per game, increase his assists, maintain some efficiency. I mean, it's tough again when you got defenses loading up on you and you're taking so many more shots, facing more doubles. So I think we now know moving forward, who he is, and that's reality. Reality sometimes is a little disappointing.
Yeah, it's always disappointing when you have that hope for a guy and it just feels like he's showing you more of the bad side that you didn't want him to fall into than the good side. But yeah, I think that's a fair one. My second guy on my list is a bit controversial here, but I got Jamal Murray. I know he's been injured. He's only played 10 games, but in those 10 games, he's only averaged 17.4 points per game. He's shooting his lowest field goal percentage since he was a rookie. And all we were hearing after the unbelievable run he did have in the playoffs, he was absolutely elite. All we were hearing was, this is the best guy in the league to never be an all-star. This guy is a dead cert. He's going to be an all-star this year. And obviously the injuries have hurt him, but this start to the season has him already behind at least 6 guards in the West. I think Booker, SGA, Ant, Fox, Doncic, Curry, they're all ahead of him now. So I think he's not going to be an all-star. And I'm getting more vibes off of him being more of a Jimmy Butler type of guy, whereas the regular season's always going to be iffy, but if he's healthy come playoff time, he's going to be able to deliver. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in terms of
what if your second best player is Jimmy Butler on Jimmy Butler's level, hey, sign me up, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, that's that's an area we just got to realize that Jamal Murray is not a regular season player. He's not a guy he's going to have a lot of all-stars, but if he's healthy come playoff time, he's going to be able to deliver.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and I'm gonna give him a chance to ramp up a little bit, given the injury and given the limited amount of time to play. And hey, if that's his title is, he's a offensive Jimmy Butler of the West, then that's fine, and I'm sure he's happy to keep that because, dude, look at name all those players you named. There is zero chance that Jamal Murray is ever going to be voted into an all-star game over those guys. It's not even a knock on him, it's those guys have established themselves, at least in voting terms, too. There's just levels to this. Now the playoffs, when it's a 7-game series, who cares? Nobody cares about awards. I don't think he'll care about awards. That's fine, man. But we're real tough here, right? Like we're disappointed in defensive player of the year and playoff studs, Jimmy Butler-esque players. All right, who? Because
that's the way it's because the narratives push it as well. But yeah, like
exactly.
Obviously, it can sound a little bit crazy, but it's also true because I think a lot of people thought Murray was going to build on what he did last year, and instead he's kind of gone the other way and he's kind of fallen back into not his fault he's got injured, but he's just an injury-prone kind of guy, and it's the big thing for him as a player is just being healthy come playoff times. We've seen him do it in 2 different playoff situations where he's really gone off and shown the best form of his career in the playoffs compared to the regular season.
Yeah, I don't have a player as my next disappointment here, but I did have 2 that kind of led me to this, and I was thinking, okay, why the Pistons, Cade isn't stepping up with his shooting the way he should. Defense isn't getting better. Jaden Ivey is not proved enough on the floor, and I'm not really seeing it there. But the reason we're not seeing it, and I think this is fair at this point, I've defended Monty. Be clear. I've defended Monty. I think he's a great coach. We've seen it. We've seen the development there. We've seen what he did with the Suns. We saw how, that there was some development with the Pelicans, but maybe New Orleans Pelicans, Monty Williams is closer to. There's an average that you average his experience there, the Suns, or maybe this is just an entirely new experience because I think everybody, including Monty Williams himself, is disappointed in how the Detroit Pistons overall has developed and what it looks like on the floor. And I'm disappointed to see that the young guys have not flourished in the way that I would have expected, based on what we saw. I'll keep saying it with our Cam Johnsons, with our Mikal Bridges. It seems we have a lot more DeAndre Ayton experiences here so far with the Pistons, especially with Jaden Ivey. And even now we're seeing it at times with Asar, like sometimes Asar just getting benched. And this is a thing of philosophy where, you don't question us as lowly podcasters. I'm not going to question his coaching decisions, but I think there is two different philosophies in terms of letting players play through mistakes or tough love, demanding accountability, especially with a lot of guys in the roster. You show that, hey, if you're not making the right rotation, you're out. If you're making a bad shot, you're out. But it feels like it's not working right now. It's December. And that is such a small blip in terms of the 8-year contract that he's been signed to. That clearly is the long-term vision for the Pistons, is that 8 years is, that's a championship window. That's, we got the young guys now. You got 8 years. Let's build a program that wins a championship. And, the beginnings could be rough, but I feel a little disappointed in how it's felt. The vibes. The vibes are not, hey, we're learning, hey, we're figuring out. The vibes are, hey, I don't know what's going on. We just got to work hard. And it feels hopeless, essentially. And that's not something that is to be disregarded in this stage of their development.
Yeah, I mean, they've lost 19 straight games. There's no real signs that it's going to end anytime soon. Obviously, there's a lot to figure out in Detroit. There's a lot of young players, a lot of players to try and fit in, but I think he needs to commit to an 8-man, 9-man rotation, even for just like a 5-game spell, and just stick with that. Give them the same minutes, the same everything, and just see how that goes. He needs to make a call and run with it. And if it doesn't work over a semi-extended period of time, then look to change it. I think he's trying to chop and change way too much. It's a bit all over the place. No one's really looking good, even in the bad situation. The whole Ivy, the way things have gone with him this year haven't been great. There's some of the young guys who are just not even getting a look in. Maybe that's justified, but what they're going to do this year, add another guy to that mix, add another top probably 3-4 pick to that mix. I mean, it's just catastrophic in there. They have to make decisions. They have to start making plans now for the future, because maybe there's still that star out there for them to get, but you have to think at this stage they have enough to at least build in a direction towards how they want to play and towards being a winning team. And we just haven't seen that at all.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, because there's stages in a rebuild where it's okay to have badness and to lead to a top whatever pick. You just take best available. But there's also a certain point where you hit a critical mass of young players, and you no longer can really develop them in a seamless way. And that it just doesn't work to have too many young guys trying to figure out who they are in their young careers, trying to build confidence. And I think that's the big thing is confidence. It's talked about so much by former players, by developmental guys, by coaches, and not having the confidence in building your game on the floor is a killer early on. And you got to wonder how many careers could have been different in different situations. And you don't want to have that sort of situation with a Jaden Ivey type of guy, a guy that you invested a top pick in. And if you bring in another guy in the lottery, you're not at a stage now where you're really going to have the luxury of just picking someone who fits along Cade or Ivy. You just got to pick best available, because that's just the best thing to do. And you're kind of at square one. You haven't really figured, if by the end of the year, you haven't really figured out what styles of play work, you haven't really figured out what is functional for us, what works, then it's a year of nothing. And it's a year of nothing with a guy who's super talented. Nobody's going to doubt the talent. Cade is a future all-star. He's a future top 20 player. I believe that. And Jaden Ivey is a super talented guy. A guy who's improved his shooting. You've seen his form improve. You know that he has the ability as a passer. You know he has a physical ability. And, a guy like Asar Thompson, a guy who is already looking like an elite, all defensive first team kind of guy. And those are 3 young guys you have on your team, and they need to figure something out eventually. And that's got to come from top down. And the consistency, I agree with that. There just needs to be consistency. There needs to be some level of expectation. They have to balance out the tough love a bit, because you're going to start to have these guys question who they are and question the shots. And that's no way to grow.
And question their coach as well. Yeah. So just all around, obviously just really rough for Detroit, and no signs of it getting any better. But let's give Monty that little bit more time to slowly try and.
Oh, he's got time. He's got time.
He definitely
got
has time
and
that's
money.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's definitely for sure. All right, next up on my list, another player playing on a very disappointing team, but we were expecting it. Jordan Poole. I was actually surprised to see that he was averaging 17 points per game. I thought it was going to be lower than that. I feel like every time I see him, and every time I see his box score, it's always around like 12 or 13. But that's also the lowest points per game since he broke out as a part of the Warriors team. He's averaging 3.4 assists per game. That's also the lowest since he broke out as part of the Warriors team. He's also averaging career lows since his rookie year in field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. This was a guy who was coming to Washington. Yeah, we always knew they were going to suck, but he was meant to be that bright light. He was meant to shine with his own team in Washington. He was meant to be the guy, but instead he's struggling. He's shown more bad things than good. And it's really Kyle Kuzma who's the main guy in Washington, and it's not Jordan Poole. And that's been disappointing to me. I think we in this early stage of season, he just looks like a guy who's made to be a role player on a good team and nothing more.
Yeah, well, is that our final determination?
I wouldn't say final, but so far that's the vibe. I'm close to that.
Not a lead guy.
Not a lead guy.
What I would say is, whenever I think about all these highlights you see, for lowlights, I should say, for Jordan Poole, a lot of it is those are shots that you sprinkle in a handful of those in his time with the Warriors. Like, he'd have the chance to do some crazy stuff, with the ball in his hands, but also like he had a lot of shots that were built off of the Warrior system, that were built off of good offense. He was coming off good actions to get clean looks. He was working off of Steph on the floor. He was, even with Steph off the floor, he had a system that kind of mirrored what Steph would get to get him clean looks that he can relocate. He has a really smart passer next to him and Draymond Green, like those sorts of things that got him good offense. Because he's never been a super, super efficient guy, though. And that's the thing that I think we needed to remember. Because, he shot, 34% from three season before that. His best season, the 36% three-point shooter. But I think what he does best is attacking defenses and not taking all these ridiculous threes, taking all these ridiculous shots. His best is his handle and his playmaking. And Washington, I think, was the perfect storm for him to. And I said this, like, it was going to go one of two ways. Like, either we were just completely wrong and he just needed more time, and then it would kind of click, all right, and then he would kind of put the puzzle together and be that efficient playmaker and really, really use his bag to help his teammates out and make the Wizards better, make them functional. Or he was going to fit right in with the Wizards' dysfunction and lack of system and just do this. Like, this was the other end of the spectrum, because I thought, either he's gonna be like a 28-point per game, like kind of score, really, really efficient, really like setting guys up, or this is a Jordan Poole experience. And it's too bad, man, because I really like him as a player. I really like his game when he wasn't doing this, when he was on the Warriors and he was more of a role guy, and maybe that is what he's more suited towards. And I don't know where he goes from here, man. Like, because this is a bad look. I don't know what the Wizards do from here, because it's a little bit more of a tanking situation. And Kuzma's the guy. And Kuzma should be. Imagine Kuzma like on the Pacers or something, like having more long defensive two-way wings who can also score like that. Actually, I just made that up in my head. Kuzma to the Pacers. He's cheaper than Siakam. You could definitely trade picks for him. I know the Wizards want that. There you go. I fixed the whole Siakam trade scenario, because there's a better guy to go for, because Kuzma, they'll probably trade him for anything at this point. Yeah,
for sure. And final point on Poole, I'll just say it's the worst vibes of all is that there's already rumors that the Wizards are going to move on from him, and that's just major mad vibes given the situation. Ow. That's just I'm not going to say I've heard the plan behind it, but the fact that the rumors are there is a pretty bad sign. All right, who you got next on your list? Have we got a team or a coach or just a player this time?
This one makes sense, and I'll keep it short. Scoot Henderson. And this is just another lesson for, advising against, putting too much faith in non-NBA minutes. They mean something, but they're not definitive. And what I saw in Summer League, what I saw in the G League was a guy who I thought would be an NBA ready point guard at a minimum. And he's not NBA ready. He's just not.
Kevin Knox on you? What?
No. I will not go there. But who I will say though is I'm a little afraid of the Dennis Smith storyline. But I believe that Scoot is a much better playmaker than those guys. But adjusting to NBA physicality and speed is something that G League should have showed you. So I'm not really sure what to make of it, but Portland is a place for him to grow patiently, and he says all the right things, and Chauncey Billups says all the right things, and kind of contrast that with Detroit, where Scoot wouldn't see the light of day if he's averaging 3.3 turnovers to 4.1 assists. That he would not be seeing the floor, but he's getting time. He's getting the ability to play through it. So you hope he gets better, but it's definitely been disappointing for a guy that, at a ridiculous comparison is like a Derrick Rose multiplayer, a guy who really is strong and fast enough to get to the hoop, is a very smart playmaker, can set up for others. And he looked ready, man, in the Summer League. Like his pull-up jumpers in the Summer League, and the way he was like working the pick and roll was like, okay, that's too good to not translate, right? And it hasn't at all. So big disappointment there.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, well, maybe he just needs to ditch those stupid goggles and then start playing a bit better.
I love him. No one else is rocking him. I love
and
that.
Then I will say, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see as the season goes on. Like, is he thriving, having to compete with three other guards who are arguably ahead of him, or even just competing with three other guards for position in the starting lineup? Maybe that's a hindrance. Maybe that's a good thing for him. Learning from the likes of Brogdon, Sharp is obviously still a young guy. Even Simons is still a young guy too. So they're all kind of competing for position within the team. Is that good? Is that bad? Probably still too early to make a decision, but definitely Scoot has been underwhelming to start. Even like we knew the Portland Trailblazers were going to struggle. We knew they weren't going to be great, but I think we all expected a bit more from Scoot early in this season.
Yeah, what I expected at this point in the season is he was scoring 15 a game, 5.5, 6 assists. Not good efficiency, but really showing flashes. He'd have like a 20 and 10 game here and there. Like really be like, oh, Scoot Henderson, all right, it's coming up. But he hasn't even had the flash yet. But yeah, well, that is a guy to wait on because I think he has such tremendous potential. But always hard to tell who's actually NBA ready. And there's so many factors that go into that. But yeah, Scoot, I'll wait on him. But a little.
That's why it's so tough to be a scout, huh?
Unless you're an anonymous scout, and then you just get to give quotes posted everywhere. That's easy.
Next guy on my list is one guy very dear to my own heart who's disappointed me so far this year. Benedict Mathurin. 13 points per game. That's nearly 4 less than he averaged in his rookie year. Only 3.9 rebounds per game. That's slightly less than last year, but that's an area I think that he needed to improve on. I think it's an area that the Pacers really needed him to improve on, and he hasn't. He's shooting roughly the same field goal percentage on less shots that he took last year. Slight boost in his three-point percentage, I should say, but overall, it's been a struggle this year. He's been moved to the bench after starting the first 12 games of the year. I was really expecting to be a guy who was going to up that efficiency, going to be up there around 46, 47% in terms of field goal percentage, going to be either side of 20 points per game, a legit scorer for this Pacers team, and he just really hasn't produced it, and he's probably been the low light of what's been a great start to the year for this Pacers team.
What does it take for him to fix that? At this point, what changed?
I don't really know. It's just because he's such a confident player. Like it never looks like he's hesitating when he's taking shots or anything.
It doesn't feel. I don't feel that confident. I don't feel his presence offensively at times.
Yeah, I agree with that, but at the same time, I feel like the big thing I noticed is that he never hesitates on a shot. When he has a chance to take a shot, he takes a shot. But I would also agree with your point that I feel like he's never really that guy. You never really see him on a heater. You never really see him dominate a defense or anything like that. And that's the area where you're like, okay, how is that going to change? Obviously, we know Halliburton's the guy on this team, but especially playing it with the second unit, you think Matherin should get more opportunities. Where it's going to come from, I don't know. Is it just putting the ball in his hands more, letting him go to work? It's difficult to see for me where it's going to come from, but I know from when he came into the league and flashes we saw last year, I just expected a lot more from him.
Yeah, and I'd love to see him get to the rim a lot more. Mm-hmm. You love to see his athleticism there when he attacks the closeout, when he's attacking scrambling defense, and that's something that, I mean, even just looking at how guys like Nembhard play, guys like Neesmith play, they're not elite shooters, but they know how to work in space, and they know how to, they know their role, and it feels like it's the way the offense plays, the way the ball is shared, that he'll ultimately this year like be a role player, which is fine because, I mean, the Pacers share. There's so much offense to go around. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't feel like he's a guy that you give him the ball and then he goes to work. It seems like he still hasn't added enough, to his mid-range game, to, or his pick and roll game, to really be the kind of guy to even slow down the offense at this point. The offense is just so good that, allowing him to just figure some things out on that end, it doesn't seem like that's the opportunity for him. But yeah, I thought this season, if you were telling me the Pacers were like a playoff team, I was thinking like we'd see Ben Mathurin be a 20-point per game scorer. It'd be like him and dynamic duo kind of thing. But I mean, somehow, the Pacers it's a tide that raises all boats, right? Like they've all gotten better, but Ben hasn't taken a leap. And that's a good thing, right? Like if the Pacers are this good right now, and Ben's not even hit his stride yet, because he's not even played well. He's not playing good for his standards. Like he should be playing a lot better than this. Like how much better did they get like once his shooting comes around? So I believe in the shot. Well, once his playmaking comes around, I believe in his ability to get downhill, and can at least make back basic passes in the pick and roll. Like that's, to have another playmaker like that, like next year after that, like he's another way for them to grow. But this season probably won't happen.
No, probably not. And I mean, I think 3 weeks ago we had back-to-back 20-point games, and I don't think he's had a single other one this year. So it's that sort of area where I thought that he's gone into, after a struggle to start of the year, I thought he was going to get into more of a flow. Kind of went the other way, and he got demoted to the bench. So we'll see what way he grows on it from here. But obviously the Pacers probably aren't too worried about it at this stage, the way that the team is thriving.
They can be patient. He can work his way in other ways. And from what I've seen, it seems like he's patient. Another guy, kind of in a similar role, like Keegan Murray is my guy here. I thought Keegan, we were really going to see an uptick in his versatility in his offensive attack. I was expecting him going from like he's a 12-point per game scorer guy. The guy's shooting tremendous efficiency. I mean, 6.3 shots as a rookie from three, 41%. That's elite. And plus what they asked him to do defensively. This year shooting 7, and this has got to be fluky, but he's shooting 30% from 3 this year, and that's not even what I'm disappointed in with Keegan. And I will put the asterisk here that he has had a bit of a back issue this season, so I think that's had a big effect on his lift and his willingness to shoot off the bounce. But that's what I wanted to see. You saw at times last season when it mattered in the playoffs, you can attack a closeout. You can get to a floater. You can get to a mid-range shot. You can run some pick and roll with him. Not a lot, but I mean, you have another playmaker on the floor. It's not just Fox and Monk against the world. Like Keegan Murray throwing the ball, he's gonna do something with it. And when he did that, it didn't look forced. It didn't look awkward. They were doing it within the flow of the offense. And there are some things in his bag that I liked. I liked his ability to attack that open space that they were giving the Kings at times when they just expected him to take threes, and they just expected everyone to kick out and shoot a 3 or get to the basket, and he had some in between game. But it's been completely non-existent this year, just completely non-existent. So not only is 3-point percentage down, but the volume inside the arc is just incredibly low, and doesn't seem like his play style has changed much. So I don't know if that's more a coaching thing. He's just playing his role, or lack of development in that area. But he's not taking a leap like we had hoped when we talked about the Kings making a jump this year or maintaining their success and where it would come from, which is supposed to be Murray.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these back injuries will be like, he's going to be another freaking Michael Porter Jr. over here. But yeah, like I think I've probably seen the Kings play 5 games this year, and I feel like I've seen a flash from Keegan in each game, but there's been no real consistency to it. And it's an area that I think the Kings are probably thinking we expected a bit more. Like you mentioned, the bit of injury trouble has hurt him, but it's been a lot of flashes. I think you get it at least once or twice a game. You see him do something, and you're like, "Wow! Imagine he did this consistently. What a difference that'd make!" But it's just not coming. Still, obviously a young player, but we talked about him earlier in the season. We had belief in this guy. He is an older guy to be a sophomore as well. We expected to see consistent levels of him doing more in terms of offense this year, and it just hasn't come. So yeah, nothing crazy because of, I guess, the injuries, but yeah, definitely disappointing as to what I think a lot of people expected, not just us, but I think a lot of Kings fans too.
Yeah, and we won't do this, right? We're not going to do the look who was drafted after him kind of thing, right? They're not going to do that. Shaden Sharp looks pretty good. Dyson Daniels, guy, I thought that the Kings would benefit from a guy like Dyson, having a defensive guy, even a Jeremy Sohan type of guy. Now we see them trying to really get better on defense, not happening. But that's one thing I will say about Keegan is, dude, they are throwing him to the fire. Like every time they play the Warriors, who's defending him? It's Keegan Murray. I mean, they're putting Keegan Murray on him. They're putting Keegan Murray on SGA. They're putting Keegan Murray on the best player on the other team, and I think that's if that's his direction, is being an elite perimeter defender. They're trying to grow him into that role, get him ready for the playoffs, and he's bombing from 3. That's still okay. That's still okay when you have Fox, when you have Monk, when you have Sabonis. But having a third guy in the perimeter to create is something they need when the shots aren't falling. Because there are times that when the threes aren't falling and you're just toggling between Monk and Fox, it just feels like they just need that little bit extra. And so far, no Keegan Murray.
Yeah, disappointing. Final guy on my list is the guy that you'll know about. Patrick Williams, 8.6 points per game, a career low. 34% from 3, that's a low. 43% from the field, that's a low. He is turning out to be like the worst part of what is a really bad situation in Chicago. He should be that bright light where you're kind of thinking, okay, we're going to build around him and Kobe White and break up this team and we're going to rebuild from here. But instead, you're kind of like, why did we ever draft Pat Williams? What is his role on this team? Why is he doing the things that he does this year and here? And this is a guy who wants $100 million contract, and this is what he's putting up. Like, that's crazy. Like, it's been a really awful start, and like I said, he's been the worst part of what is a bad situation in Chicago.
No comment. Yeah. It's projecting player growth is so hard, and I think Patrick Williams, every player is a lesson, and Patrick Williams is a guy that provides that lesson where if somebody doesn't have the mentality, you can't really teach mentality. And that was my first kind of like warning sign is, let's erase even the rookie year, but even in a sophomore year, the mentality on the floor didn't change. And his mentality hasn't shifted in a meaningful way from year 1 to now, year 4. Year 3, sorry. And I just want to say that, like, I'm okay with him being a role player at this point. I'm not even disappointed, Ronan, because I think I needed to see game 1 through 5 this season to make my decision, because even in the offseason, I was like, this is a Hail Mary for Patrick Williams to come out of his cocoon and become an future all-star level kind of player, kind of guy. And it didn't happen because there's no shift in mentality. Like he's not aggressive on the boards. He's not aggressive to attack the rim. He's not aggressive in finding a shot, but he will space the floor. He will attack the board sometimes. He plays great defense. I'm happy with the defense. There's that, but the fourth pick for a role player is tough. But hey, James Wiseman, what's he doing, huh? Isaac Okoro.
Why are you questioning James Wiseman? You love James Wiseman.
I'm just saying. Onyeka Okongwu, he's not starting either. How's Killian Hayes working out, huh? Obi Toppin not even on the Knicks anymore. Denny Obvious, all right. Jalen Smith. I mean, there's a lot of guys from that draft. A lot of guys are not on the same team or anything like that. So why are we coming for my boy?
So what you're trying to say is that whole draft class sucked, and that's why it's okay for Patrick Williams to suck. Okay, that's cool. We'll call it that. Yeah.
We'll call it that. Klay Thompson. Speaking of the Warriors, let's talk about Klay Thompson. Forget about Pat Williams. Everybody, let's keep talking about Klay. We all know how much he struggled this season, and this is not to pile on, but it's December now, and you check his shooting splits. You just kind of wait for that creep up, and it hasn't come. He's still shooting 35% overall from three, career low in scoring and efficiency. The 27% on open threes is really concerning to me. The 25% in the corner is really concerning to me, and still taking those pull-up mid-rangers and shooting 44% on that. So all that to paint a picture that the shooting is still just not coming along, and the defense is still a step slow. He's not at that level anymore. And I'll just ask the question is, can the Warriors still win a championship without Klay Thompson at 80% of himself? Not even peak powers. I wrote peak powers, but he's not going to be peak power. Can they win championship with him 80%? Right now he's at 20. No, just straight up. They cannot.
No.
So
they're so heavily reliant on Steph Curry. Klay, the drop off on the defensive side is big. I think that's just natural. The impact that all the injuries he's had is coming home to roost. Just getting that little bit older. The shot is just the anomaly. Is what has happened there? That's the one that you're really wow, what is going on with Klay Thompson right now? But yeah, I don't see the Warriors winning without him. And yeah, his start of the year has definitely been a question mark. He's come out swinging. He's had a couple of kind of bounce back games recently, but on the whole, really disappointing and a big concern for the Warriors.
I refuse to believe that, even though I'm disappointed now, I refuse to believe that this is how bad he'll shoot. There's just no way. I have to bet against the disappointment. But I think the disappointment comes with a 10-12 start to the season, with Steph Curry still being Steph Curry. And, you, again, have this struggle of at what point do you fully invest in the young guys? What level do you fully invest in giving looks to the other guys? I mean, how much more productive would this season be if Klay is replaced with minutes from Podziemski? You see what you get there. More minutes for Kuminga, more minutes for Moody, to kind of work them in there, as opposed to them kind of biting at the scraps. And getting Klay going is ultimately that's the goal. So I get it, is you play the long game of getting Klay back into shape, getting Klay back into form, and come playoff time, if that happens, then you're winning a championship, as opposed to, the minutes from those other guys that probably doesn't turn into something. But what if you started that last year and then you do that this year? And then, player development has to come at the cost of something. But the disappointment wrapped in the Warriors' poor start to the season is tough, especially with Steph still being Steph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at the same time, they're kind of just doing what you're supposed to do. When you get a real big talent, you got to scrape and graft and get every ounce of everything you can get out of them before you give up on it, because who knows how long it's going to be before you get a guy as good as them again. So I think it'll be a massive decision to really try and kind of wean off Klay that little bit more and give more minutes to other guys. But he definitely needs to show his greatness and make sure he gets better. That's just what it comes down to. He has to get better. But that's going to close off our list. A couple of guys I will say that I didn't mention that deserve to be on the list. Just quick fire. Ben Simmons, he's back. He's back. No, he's back to having another back injury. He played 6 games all year. He averaged 6.5 points per game in that time and just 6.7 assists per game. And that's bad for him because he's meant to be this elite playmaker. He's just back to being injured again. The usual Ben Simmons. And then also Josh Giddey. As I said, he's probably a little bit distracted with a few other things that are going on in his personal life, but averaging a career low in points per game, assists per game, and rebounds per game, and shooting below 42% from the field. He is struggling, and he is playing his way out of minutes on this OKC team.
Yeah, no comment about him. But did we already mention that he has more shots than points? I don't know if that changed the last couple of nights. He's quickly just not becoming a productive member of this squad, and that's half a season for a young player. Not even half yet, but a small portion. Like they're gonna wait for him, and they're gonna wait for him to find himself. But if he can't find a way to be efficient on the offensive end, like they have guys that are budding here. Like Cason Wallace is a guy that will definitely be a part of the team. Isaiah Joe, the defense he's brought, in addition to his steady 3-point shooting, like those two guys, much better fits right now. And that's not even to talk about Aaron Wiggins, like what he's done attacking the rim and how effective he's been. I mean, even Trey, man, like there are enough guys, and this is complete contrast to you look at the Pistons, right? Like all these guys have stayed with OKC and have really been developed, and they know their role, they're confident in it, and you're starting to reap the rewards of that because you got a rotation full of young guys who have physically developed, who have developed their shots, who know how to work in the system. And you don't need a Josh Giddey if they're going to continue to play like they're playing. You got to cut the fat at some point, and maybe he's someone who ends up going because you don't need a playmaker who can't shoot or play good defense.
One thing I say about the Thunder is I feel like every night they have a new guy that gets minutes on the floor that I have no idea who he is. So that happens with the Thunder. They must have like a 40-man roster. They're always just guys coming out of nowhere playing.
Don't tell me you don't know Trey, man.
I know Trey, man. There's other guys though. There's other guys where I'm just like, who the hell is this guy?
You know Jalen Williams, you know Kenrich Williams, you know all the Williams.
Which Jalen Williams is that now? Jay, we got J Dub and just Jay. Is that's the way they kind of distinguish them? I think.
Just wait till they start bringing Usman Jang out of the G League. Then that'll just throw you for a loop.
Yeah. One thing I say on the Thunder, SGA. Every time I watch him, looks like more and more of a hooper. There's playing the clutch, his mid-range master. Like SGA is just a really enjoyable player to watch playing basketball. And last night he came up clutch again, big shots in OT as they beat the Warriors.
You need a shot to save your life. SGA or Steph Curry.
I still have to give it to Steph, but
SGA or Devin Booker.
SGA
or De'Aaron Fox.
SGA 100%.
SGA or Jason Tatum. SGA or Tyrese Halliburton.
Ooh, I gotta go with my Halle baby there.
Oh, come on. No bias. Take the bias away.
Okay, SGA.
SGA or Luka Doncic.
Luka will still hit that shot for me. He will.
SGA is kind of, I don't know, that's tough. That's where it gets tough for me. But yeah, man, it's normal. This is normal for him. Shea is Shea.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he's established himself, and that's why, when you talked about Murray, how far behind he is, and it's like, dude, the West is packed with like unbelievable talent at the guard position, and you didn't even mention De'Aaron Fox, didn't even mention John Morant when John Morant's healthy. Like it's insane.
Yeah, for sure. Before we finish up, I'm gonna quiz you a little bit.
No.
I'm gonna test your brain out before we finish up.
This is a pop quiz, just so we're.
It's not a pop quiz. This is just a 1-question quiz. You got to name 10 guys. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes. I want you to name the top 10 guys in 3-point shots made since 2010.
Since 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So top 10 guys. LeBron James is there. Just
okay, wait. Before you get into it, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do this. The top 3 guys in 3-point shots made since 2010. Okay, go.
3-point shots made. Steph Curry.
Yes, number 1, 3,492.
Even despite the injuries, I'm gonna say, no, Buddy Hield.
Buddy Hield only just gets in there. He's at number 10, 1,762.
What? Okay, that's crazy. I got to say since 2010, I'm gonna say James Harden.
Yes, he's number 2, 2,792.
Paul George.
Yes, he is number 5, 2,078.
LeBron James.
LeBron James is not on it. He's just outside. Just outside.
Just the fact that he's always playing. All right. Since 2010, Chris Paul.
Chris Paul is not on there.
Whoa. Okay.
One player is a retired player. I'll let you know that anyway.
Oh, that's tough. Retired player. Who is absolutely hooping?
Got 6 more guys to get.
All right. Let's think now. I'm gonna stick out west. I'm gonna go Kevin Durant.
Nope, he's also just outside, just behind Buddy Hield.
Oh man. Okay. There's got to be a really weird one. There is
arguably a couple of really weird ones, but there's also 2 really big ones that you have not got yet.
Yeah. Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum, what are you on about?
I don't know. Wait, hold on. I'm
that's crazy.
All right.
I think guys who've basically played for the entirety of the last 13 years. Yeah.
For a decade. Who's let's say it's not Chris Paul. But there's gonna be a weird one. Brooke Lopez.
No, not Brooke Lopez.
I'm trying to guess the weird one. I'm trying to guess the weird one for
you. The weird one is a guy that is essentially a nobody, slightly role player. He's currently with the Hawks. I actually thought he was out of the league over the last few years. He's had 2 spells with the Bucks and 1 with the Lakers. Gone over the 2 minutes here, but you're struggling so bad. I just gotta let you play it out.
No, I'm not. I'm gonna get it. What about? Can we say? Damian Lillard.
Of course, yes.
Damian Lillard's there.
Number 3.
He's number 3.
Damian Lillard's number 3. Yep.
Wow. Who's been playing for 10 years?
There's a legendary Eastern Conference point guard in there. That's also in the list, number 6. Still playing in the game today.
What about Bradley Beal?
No.
What about? Kyle Lowry.
Bingo. Number 6, 2058.
Kyle Lowry. Okay, because I know I was missing someone who's fallen off. I want to say.
So
give me a hint. What do I got? What do I got so far?
Okay, we'll go for number. You've got. What have you got?
I hate when you
7?
put me on the spot, man.
You got Steph Curry, James Harden, Damian Lillard, Paul George, Kyle Lowry, and Buddy Hield. So you are missing number 4, number 7, number 8, and number 9. Number 4 is a guy we just talked about a few minutes ago.
Didn't I already say? Wait, did I already say Thompson?
No.
Okay, Klay Thompson. Okay, all right. That one is obvious. Who just shoots a ton of threes? It's gonna be someone that. So I'm missing what numbers now?
7, 8, and 9.
7, 8, and 9.
Number 7 is retired. Number 8 is just a random guy that'd be really tough to get, and number 9 is a pretty consistent performer. Never a star, but always a consistent scorer and 3-point shooter on playoff teams.
On playoff. Okay. Is he in the Western Conference?
He is.
Has he changed teams several times? Past 5 years?
A few. He's in the first year with a new team this year.
Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon.
Yes, Eric Gordon. Number 9.
Number 9. So I got 7 and 8.
You need the retired player. I'll give you a hint. He has a podcast.
Who is retired as a podcast? What? Isaiah Thomas?
Come on, man.
Dude, everyone has a podcast.
He works
now.
with ESPN.
Everybody has a podcast now. Oh my God. JJ Redick?
Bingo.
Duh. That was such an easy
Number 7, 1,828. And now you're just missing the one that I expected you to miss out on.
Well, okay, because I was going to say retired, and I was going to say, what, Kemba Walker?
He was just outside as well. He was just behind Durant. He was number 11.
Okay.
Redick was your retired guy. The last one is a role guy. I don't think you're going to get it. He plays for the Hawks. You want to have a guess?
Oh.
Well, I use the term loosely. He plays. He's on the Hawks roster.
He's on the Hawks roster. What? No, it wouldn't be. He's on the roster? Who's on the roster? It's in the last 10 years. His top 10. Vince Carter.
Is Vince Carter on the Hawks roster right
playing.
now?
I'm like, is he still somehow like? No, he's not. Bro.
I'm just gonna have to give it to you.
Tony Snell. I'm making that.
Not the worst. It was Wes Matthews.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's
1,826. Yeah, I did not know that.
Hawks?
I
Is
thought
he at
he was.
home?
I thought he was a free agent. I did not think he. I thought he was out of the league.
Yeah, Wes
I did not
Matthews.
think that.
Wes
Yeah, that
Matthews.
rounds out the list. You didn't do too badly. You definitely didn't get it in 2 minutes, but
I passed. What's a passing grade? Like 60%?
I mean, you had like
I got
4
6 out of 10.
I think you had like 4 after 2 minutes, but yeah, sure.
Nah.
I'll maybe give you the pass. You got there in the end. The time pressure didn't help you. That got you a bit nervous and bothered. So I'll give you the pass.
Wait, hold on. How many did I get? How many did I get out of 10 within 2 minutes?
I'm gonna say a maximum of 5.
5.
I'll give you 50%. We'll call you 50% pass.
50% from 3. That's pretty good. I'll just say that. Pretty good.
Not too bad at all, but yeah, you could have done better. I think the time when I told you there was a time limit, you got a bit flustered and forgot a few big guys.
Okay, on a podcast themed disappointments, here we go with another disappointing performance from me in another section of quizzes from Ronan. All right, cool.
Same old, but that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks you so much for listening. Thank you for enjoying that little quiz there, just to get Chris a little bit rattled. My thanks to Chris for joining me as always, and thank you all so much for listening. Remember, we are everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA, and most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Even if you make 50%.